Today it's time to discuss the subject of DICE removing modes from BF5. This topic has been a large talking point in the community over recent weeks, and for good reason. People want to play interesting game modes and don't enjoy seeing them removed for reasons that aren't well explained by the community managers or DICE in general. First of all, we have been exposed to limited time modes in a game that is severely lacking when it comes to content, and then at a point where players seem to have a decent balance of both infantry and combined arms modes, DICE just pull the carpet out from under us and cut frontlines and domination, two modes that have been popular from the start of the game. On May 29th, Part Welsh, the community manager for Battlefield 5, posted a community broadcast giving an update on the pit crew skin and game mode availability. The post was not well received, mainly down to the fact that it was filled with excuses and negative information at a time when people wanted to hear about the new Mercury map and potentially more up and coming content DICE had in the pipeline. Either way, it's good that DICE are becoming more transparent with this information, even if the stuff we are hearing is not exactly positive. I've included a couple of quotes from that community post and then some comments down below because some people were less than happy on Reddit. About halfway through the post we get into the updates on existing game modes. This is a quote from the broadcast. Over the past few weeks we have given a lot of thought to the topic of how many game modes are presently available as fixed residents in Battlefield 5. Through both our own deliberations and careful review of the data available to use, we've decided to remove the dedicated playlists for Frontlines and Domination. This will take effect this week." End quote. Now, the reason that DICE have given for this decision is apparently the modes aren't that popular and people weren't playing them, but for a fact I know that that isn't true. Yes, Conquest is more popular than both the modes combined, but that has always been the case. Even back in Battlefield 4, where we had lots of modes that were all popular with custom servers and consistent rotations, Conquest still dominated, and by quite a considerable distance, but you still didn't see DICE cutting modes from the game. A good example of this was Air Superiority. Maybe one or two servers would be up at a time, but it doesn't really matter because that gives at least some people a chance to play a game mode that they really enjoy. You had the choice to get a custom server too and make your own rotation of maps and modes, or at the very least you could search and hope someone had a server with the settings you wanted to play. Battlefield 5 has none of this, and we'll get onto that in a bit more detail later on in the video. Now, before we go any further, I'd like to say that Frontlines and Domination haven't gone for good. DICE are intending to bring these modes back as private server rotations, and as we've seen recently, they can also be coming back as limited time modes in their own custom rotations. The question still remains though, why remove them in the first place? I think it could be down to a few reasons. Firstly, the devs are overcomplicating absolutely everything, and instead of focusing on the actual issues in the game, such as the bugs, the consistently poor balance, lack of content, lack of features, etc. The list goes on. We all know how many problems the game has. They're focusing on the wrong thing, and they should be looking at that instead of trying to worry about which modes are more popular than the other ones. Just leave all the modes alone. Don't have these limited time modes. Just bring a new mode to the game that's really good and leave it there. And say, for example, only one server runs, or maybe no one plays it at all. Don't worry about it. Just leave it there. Secondly, this might be an attempt to create a bit of hunger for infantry-based modes, with the new 5v5 mode coming soon and being announced in more detail at EA Play. DICE might be worrying that this mode that they've clearly invested a lot of time and resources into might not be as popular as people think, and if Incursions from Battlefield 1 is anything to go by, I personally think it could flop quite heavily and embarrass the people that have spent so much time trying to work on it. That's not saying it might not be great, but a 5v5 mode isn't exactly what people have been wanting with Battlefield 5. Cutting a couple of infantry-based modes like Frontlines and Domination, even though Frontlines does have a tank in it, but removing these modes could create a bit more desire for people to want to play a 5v5 infantry mode, and that's a bit of wishful thinking, I think, from DICE. Nonetheless, it could be a reason for it. Thirdly, maybe DICE are trying to hype up the private servers before they even land. What I mean by this is you could bring Frontlines and Domination back to the game if you pay for a private server. Many people do enjoy these modes, as I stated before, so it could be that DICE have realised this and are holding on to the modes until the private servers come out, and then you can almost pay to have them back. This could potentially be the only way to play these modes, almost guaranteeing some sales of private servers, and again a bit of a tinfoil hat thinking here, but I think that this opinion does hold some water, as DICE have done similar things to this in the past. Finally, it could be a complete misinterpretation from DICE. Just because there are only 10 servers running Frontlines, and maybe only 5 in the EU, doesn't mean it isn't popular. In fact, I'd say it's very popular, and the main reason your game might not have a whole load of players is directly linked to the consistent fumbles and poor decisions that come directly from the office. It could also be down to the fact that the UX is confusing, people don't know where to join games, the server browser is inconsistent and often dumps you into grand operations when you just want to play Conquest. It's a bit of a mess, and in all honesty, this could be why some modes are not as popular as others. Removing modes that people paid for and play week in, week out seems like a poor move in my opinion, and it just adds to the already contentious idea of limited time modes. Even if the modes aren't popular, you shouldn't be removing them anyway, as servers are created on demand in Battlefield 5. It's not like the BF1 days, whereby servers could sit there empty for a long time. I hope that DICE decide that Battlefield 5 is a game that needs injecting with as much new content as possible, and the last thing you want to be doing is removing any content at all. A few realistic things I'd do immediately to improve the popularity of the game are as follows. Firstly, I'd bring one big announcement highlighting everything that is being brought to the game. Yes, Battlefield 5 has been criticised for being an update, announcing an update, announcing an update, and these community broadcasts definitely do a bit of that every week or so when they're released. But for me, I think a clear post that everybody can see, almost like a roadmap for the entire life of Battlefield 5, would make things very clear for people, and then sticking to that and not making any promises that can't be kept. Secondly, I'd like to see a custom rotation of the modes that people enjoy playing, and stop removing modes if people enjoy them at all. You've gone to all the trouble of making cool and interesting modes like Grind and Fortress, only to just cut them off. After a few weeks of playing, this is pretty sad. I'd love to see a custom rotation of all of these modes like Rush, Grind, Fortress, and then people can just jump on and get a selection of different modes. Maybe infantry only, I'm not sure, but I think it would get a lot of people playing, and maybe for a longer period of time as well, as they wait for their favourite mode to come round and they get used to all the other modes too, and you never know, you might find something you really like if DICE do it properly. Finally, and this is a little bit of a tangent to what we've been discussing today, but cosmetics, they have to be sorted out. Elites are the only thing that should be purchasable with Battlefield coins only, whilst everything else should be attainable through company coins, and then potentially shortcutted through Battlefield coins as well. This would make a lot of sense due to the level updates we've just seen as well. People working towards level 500 means a huge amount of company coins will be getting stockpiled, and people need cool cosmetics to spend them on. Cosmetics aren't that great in BF5 anyway, due to the nature of character skins in a first-person shooter, and limited chance to inspect them or show them off to teammates and enemies, but they are probably the last thing I want to spend my hard-earned cash on anyway. Being able to grind, play the game for longer, and then pay for the nicer looking ones with company coins would be a way to go, in my opinion. And also introducing some vehicle cosmetics and customization. We've been waiting on that for a long time, and I'd love to see it come to the game, as they're one of the only things that you can look at. They're larger, third person, and really, planes and vehicles are pretty cool in World War II, and they should really have more customization in my opinion. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.